8 things INFJs never do on social media. There's something quietly poetic about the way INFJs exist in the digital world, as if they're ghosts that drift through social media without ever fully participating in the strange dance. Everyone else seems so eager to perform, and every time they hover over the post button, feeling that familiar whisper deep in their intuition, something in them hesitates, something in them pauses, something in them pulls back, as though the screen is asking for a version of their soul they're not prepared to hand over to an audience that hasn't earned the right to see it. And so today, we're diving into 8 things INFJs simply never do on social media. Not because they are stubborn or shy or antisocial, but because their minds and hearts operate on a frequency that the digital world rarely understands. A frequency built on authenticity, introspection, emotional depth, and a subtle desire for silent truth rather than public performance. So if you've ever felt like social media is a foreign language, like you're the only one who doesn't know how to enjoy the chaotic energy everyone else seems to thrive on, or like your presence online is a careful whisper instead of the loud, casual expression so many people toss around effortlessly, this video will speak to your soul. Let's begin. 1. INFJs never overshare their lives for validation. There is an unspoken rule carved deep inside every INFJ's emotional code. Never give your soul to people who haven't shown they can handle it. And social media, with its frantic pace and superficial engagement, simply does not feel like a safe place for the INFJ's truth. While some people instinctively post photos of every brunch, every outing, every new haircut, every fleeting thought, every emotional shift they feel, the INFJ instinctively moves in the opposite direction. Keeping their personal world tucked close to their heart like a fragile journal, they only open for a chosen few. Because for them, validation is not a public event. It's a quiet, intimate moment of being understood by someone who truly sees them. INFJ feel their emotions in a way that is almost sacred, and to expose that sacredness for the sake of likes, comments, or fleeting acknowledgement feels deeply wrong. Almost like betraying something inside themselves that was never meant to be placed on display. INFJs don't measure their identity through digital applause. They measure it through internal alignment. They don't need the world to witness their journey, because they're too busy actually living it, feeling it, and understanding it. INFJs know that some moments are too meaningful to be reduced to a square photo or a 10-second clip. Some feelings are too complex to survive the shallow reinterpretation of an algorithm-driven feed. And some truths are meant to be whispered to one heart, not shouted to 500 followers scrolling past without noticing. This is why INFJs rarely overshare, because their inner world is not a performance. It's a sanctuary, and sanctuaries are protected, not advertised. 2. INFJs never engage in drama, debates, or public conflict. The INFJ mind is allergic to unnecessary conflict, especially the kind that unfolds online, where nuance dies, ego reigns, and people hurl opinions like emotional grenades with no intention of understanding one another. INFJs don't argue publicly because they know the truth. No one wins a battle fought for an audience. They never jump into heated comment threads or reply to inflammatory posts with long counterarguments, not because they lack conviction, but because they understand the emotional reality. Most people online aren't debating to grow. They're debating to dominate or defend an identity built through fear, insecurity, or projection. INFJs sense this instantly. Their intuition picks up the emotional motives behind people's words, the defensiveness, the wounded pride, the craving for validation, the disguised pain beneath the aggression, and they know that stepping into that battlefield would drain their energy, disturb their inner peace, and force them into a confrontation where empathy and logic are unwelcome guests. So instead, INFJs choose silence. Not passive silence, but intentional silence. The kind that says, I value my energy too much to waste it in a place where minds are closed and hearts are armored. To an INFJ, peace is more important than winning. Empathy is more valuable than ego. Understanding is more meaningful than being right in public. And so they withdraw from drama, feeling no guilt, because they know that truth doesn't need to be shouted to be real. 3. INFJs never pretend to be someone they're not. In a digital world where people bend, twist, and reshape themselves to fit trends, aesthetics, and social expectations, INFJs stand out like quiet rebels who refuse to perform the version of themselves that society wants to see. They cannot lie about who they are. They cannot pretend. They cannot create a persona that feels emotionally disconnected from their inner truth. For INFJs, authenticity is oxygen. Take it away and they suffocate. This is why their social media presence often feels minimal, soft, selective, or mysteriously quiet. They would rather be absent than artificial. They don't post staged moments to appear happier. They don't filter their life to seem more successful. They don't curate an aesthetic identity for attention. They don't chase illusions of perfection. INFJs are deeply aware of the subtle dishonesty that shapes social media culture. The endless need to be seen as interesting, desirable, confident, productive, aesthetic, or inspiring. And this awareness makes them deeply uncomfortable, because INFJs interact with life on an emotional level, not a performative one. Pretending drains them. Inauthenticity wounds them. Artificiality repels them. So instead of playing the game, they quietly step to the side, preserving their integrity. To the INFJ, truth is a far more powerful identity than any polished persona could ever be. 4. INFJs never post without meaning, intention, or emotional purpose. There is a certain heaviness, a meaningful weight to everything an INFJ does, and this extends to the rare moments when they decide to share something online. For many personality types, posting is easy, casual, almost unconscious. It's a quick impulse, a fun moment, a passing thought. But for INFJs, posting is never just a click. It's a question of purpose. What does this mean? Why am I sharing it? Will it help someone? Does it reflect something true inside me? Does it offer value, insight, comfort, resonance, or beauty? INFJs don't post to impress. They post to connect. They post to make someone feel seen. They post to express something deeper. They post to spark a meaningful reflection. They post because the moment itself whispered that it deserved a witness. This is why INFJ-created content, no matter how simple, often feels soulful, poetic, thoughtful, or emotionally resonant. It carries intention, like a handwritten note placed gently on a desk rather than a flyer tossed into the wind. INFJs understand the emotional ripple effect of their words, so they never send out an empty ripple. If it doesn't serve a purpose, if it doesn't reflect sincerity, if it doesn't feel aligned with their values, they simply won't post it. To an INFJ, meaning is everything, and meaning cannot be faked. 5. INFJs never chase likes, comments, or external validation. There is something quietly powerful about an INFJ's detachment from digital approval, a kind of emotional self-sufficiency that is rare in a world addicted to validation. INFJs don't measure the worth of their thoughts by the number of likes they receive. They measure it by the emotional truth behind those thoughts. They don't post for applause. They post for authenticity. They don't create to be admired. They create to express something real. If an INFJ shares something that resonates deeply with only one person, that means more to them than 100 likes from people who skimmed past without understanding. Their heart is not interested in popularity. It's interested in connection. Their ego is not fueled by numbers. It's fueled by meaning. And because INFJs intuitively understand how easily social media becomes a trap for insecurity, comparison, or self-worth issues, they keep themselves emotionally detached from the dopamine cycle that pulls so many people in. They see the emptiness behind it. They feel the shallowness. They recognize the illusion, and they refuse to build their identity on reactions that disappear within seconds. INFJs do not chase validation. They cultivate truth. 6. INFJs never reveal their full emotional world online. One of the most distinctive INFJ traits is their incredible depth, the oceanic layers of emotion, intuition, insight, and internal processing that make up their psychological landscape. And social media simply cannot hold that depth. INFJs know that if they were to fully express themselves online, The result would be overwhelming, misunderstood, or dismissed by people who don't have the patience or perception to see beneath the surface. Their thoughts are too layered for a caption. Their emotions are too intense for a status update. Their insights are too complex for a tweet. Their inner transformations are too personal for a story. And so INFJs instinctively share only small pieces, gentle hints of who they are, delicate traces of their inner world, carefully chosen reflections that reveal something but never too much. It is not secrecy, it is self-protection. INFJs feel everything deeply, and that depth is not something to expose casually. They would rather reveal their soul to one trusted person in a quiet, intimate moment than to thousands of strangers who will never truly see them. They never play the emotional exhibitionism game that is so common online. Instead, they guard their inner world like a sacred garden, letting in only those who move with gentleness. 7. INFJs never post out of impulse or emotional reactivity. INFJs process emotions slowly, deeply, and deliberately, and that makes impulsive posting almost impossible for them. While many people release their feelings instantly online, ranting, venting, reacting, firing off emotional responses, INFJs take a step back, observing their feelings like clouds drifting across a private sky, knowing that immediate expression rarely captures the full truth. They understand that feelings evolve, insights deepen, perceptions shift. What they feel now might not be what they feel in an hour, or a day, or a week. So they wait. They reflect, they breathe, they process. By the time the INFJ fully understands what they feel, the emotional storm has usually passed, the need to post has dissolved, and the clarity they gained becomes something personal rather than something they want to broadcast. INFJs rarely react online because they are already busy responding inwardly, turning every emotional surge into introspection rather than content. This emotional patience, this reflective distance, is why INFJs seem so calm online. They don't feed the storm, they study it. 8. INFJs never use social media to replace real connection. Perhaps the deepest truth of all is this: INFJs know that no digital interaction, no matter how sweet, no matter how frequent, no matter how comforting, can replace real human connection. They are wired for depth, raw emotional, present moment depth, and social media, with all its noise and fragmentation, can only offer shadows of the intimacy they crave. INFJs never mistake online presence for true presence. They never confuse comments for connection. They never confuse likes for understanding. They never confuse messages for meaning. They know that real connection is felt in the pauses between words, in the energy of shared silence, in the warmth of eye contact, in the sincerity of vulnerability, in the unspoken understanding that only blooms in genuine closeness. Social media might be a tool, but it is not their home. INFJs find real connection in real moments, with real souls, in real places, in real conversations that drift into emotional landscapes too vast to fit inside a screen. They use social media lightly, carefully, intentionally, but they always return to what feels real. And that is why they stand apart. INFJs move differently through the digital world, not because they are disconnected, but because they are deeply connected to themselves, to meaning, to authenticity, to emotional truth, to purpose, to depth, to the invisible things that matter infinitely more than the loudness of online life. They do not overshare. They do not pretend. They do not seek applause. They do not chase drama. They do not expose their inner world to people who haven't earned access. They do not react impulsively. They do not lose themselves in the noise. They do not forget who they are. The INFJ's social media presence may seem quiet, minimal, or mysterious, but underneath that quietness is an entire emotional universe. A universe they choose to share only with those who move gently enough to honor it. And if you are an INFJ listening to this, know this: your silence is not emptiness. Your selectiveness is not shyness. Your restraint is not insecurity. Your privacy is not avoidance. It is wisdom. It is depth. It is authenticity. It is emotional intelligence. It is your soul protecting itself in a world that often moves too fast to understand the beauty of your inner world. You are not wrong for the way you exist online.